Hi, and welcome to the Storytelling Podcast, your cozy corner for captivating tales. I'm your host, Alejandra, and today I'm going to tell you an incredible story that I found out in this large bowl of stories that I dived in. And for that, we're going to Boston, a city rich with history and stories. But this isn't a tale of revolutionaries or old world charm. This is a story that sounds like a joke, a bizarre headline, but was in fact a very real, very tragic disaster. Today we're telling the story of the Great Molasses Flood of 1919. And yes, you heard it right, molasses. The year is 1919. The First World War has just ended. The United States is on the brink of a new dramatic change, prohibition. On the streets of Boston's North End, near the harbor, life is bustling. It's a vibrant, working class neighborhood, home to a large community of Italian and Irish immigrants. Kids are playing in the street, men are returning from their lunch breaks, and horses are pulling heavy carts. It's a surprisingly warm January day, with temperatures climbing, a relief from the usual bitter cold of a New England winter. At the heart of this busy waterfront district stood an immense, a truly enormous steel tank. It was 50 feet tall and 90 feet of diameter, holding over 2 million gallons of molasses. Now, this wasn't the kind of molasses that you put on your pancakes. This was industrial grade molasses, a key ingredient for the Purity Distilling Company, who used it to produce ethanol for both industrial alcohol and, for a little while longer, rum. This tank, though, was not a beloved landmark. It was a source of constant complaining for the locals. It was poorly constructed, built in a rush just a few years earlier, and it leaked constantly. Children in their neighborhood would collect the sticky drips in pails, a sort of free gooey treat. When the company was told about the leaks, their solution was to paint the tank brown to camouflage the oozing molasses. This was a clear warning sign, literally plastered over with a fresh coat of paint. And then, on January 15th, at about 12:30 p.m., the story takes a turn from quirky to terrifying. The tank, strained by a new shipment of molasses and the unseasonably warm weather, which had expanded the liquid and increased the internal pressure, could no longer hold. It ruptured. And what happened next was a force of nature. A wave of molasses, 20 feet high, surged from the collapsing tank. It wasn't a gentle flow. This was a tsunami of sticky, heavy, suffocating liquid, moving at an incredible 35 miles per hour. Imagine it. A wave of molasses, a substance of 1.5 times denser than water, barreling down a crowded street. The force was so immense that it twisted steel girders on the elevated train tracks, causing a section to collapse. It ripped a nearby firehouse from its foundations, crushing it and trapping the firefighters inside. Buildings were flattened, as if they were made of cardboard. People and horses were swept away, struggling to swim in a substance that was thicker and heavier than anything they ever had encountered. The immediate aftermath was pure chaos. The molasses quickly began to cool in the January air, thickening and becoming even more difficult to move through. It was like a gooey, deadly quicksand. Rescuers, including police, sailors from a nearby training ship, and Red Cross workers, struggled to help. They had to wade through waist-deep molasses that made every step a monumental effort. Horses were so completely immersed in the sticky mess that police had to shoot them to end their suffering. For days, the search for victims continued. The bodies of the deceased were coated in so much more molasses that they were difficult to identify. Some were swept into the Boston harbor, with the last body being found months later. The final toll was devastating: 25 people killed and over 150 injured. But the story doesn't end with the disaster itself. The next chapter is a legal battle that would change the course of construction and safety standards in the United States. The company that owned the tank, the Purity Distilling Company, owned by the U.S. Industrial Alcohol Company, initially tried to deflect blame. Their claim was that the tank had been bombed by anarchists. It was a plausible theory at the time, given that the social unrest, but it was a desperate attempt to avoid accountability. The ensuing court case was one of the first major class action lawsuits in the American history. It lasted for 6 long years. Lawyers and engineers meticulously re examined the evidence. The shoddiness of the tank's construction became a key point. The low grade steel, and the too few rivets, the lack of proper engineering oversight. The evidence was irrefutable. In 1925, the court ruled against the company. It was a landmark decision that established a new principle. Companies are responsible for the safety of their structures and the potential harm that they can cause. The Molasses Flood, a seemingly absurd and cartoonish event, became a catalyst for change. It led to new regulations that required architects and engineers to sign off any building plans and for city inspectors to check their work. And the cleanup, well, that was a nightmare. The molasses had seeped into every crack and crevice. It was a sticky brown stain on the city. Salt water from the harbor was eventually used to break down the sugar, but the process was slow and arduous. And for decades afterwards, residents of the North End would report a strange phenomenon. On warm summer days, a sweet, syrupy smell would rise from the streets and sidewalks, a ghost of the disaster still clinging in the city. Today, if you visit the North End, you'll find a small plaque near the site where the tank once stood. It's a simple, quiet monument to a disaster that, for all its absurdity, had a profound and lasting impact. It's a reminder that even the most benign seeming substance can be deadly, and that the stories we can tell from the past often have powerful lessons for our future. And this was today's episode, guys. It was a small episode, but I read about this story and it was so different. I didn't know about this, and I'm always trying to find a couple of historical stories, different, to share with you guys. Just to have different and quirky stories to tell you. And I hope you liked it. And comment below and share your thoughts. It's always nice to hear from you guys. And I promise that I have other episodes ready for you here weekly at the Storytelling Podcast. Thank you for listening. And please remember that if you'd like to send your stories or special topics to be shared in the next episodes, please send it to thestorytellingpodcast80 at gmail.com, or follow me on social media at The Storytelling Podcast Official. But before you go, if you haven't done that already, I would love for you to click on the follow or subscribe button, and see you on the next episode.